The Aztec god Quetzalcoatl wanted his people to be the best version of themselves. He wanted them to be hardworking and generous and talented and kind and wise. And so he gifted them cacao. Now, it's said he stole cacao seeds from the gods of paradise and then planted a small bush in Tula, Mexico as a gift for the Toltecs. After he planted the bush, he asked Tlaloc, the god of water, to send rain so that the seeds could be nourished and grow. Then he visited Xochiquetzal, the goddess of love and beauty, and asked her to grace the plant with beautiful flowers. Eventually, the seeds flourished and produced cacao for the people. Hi, this is Sarah Russell, your microdose host, here to celebrate the amazing journey that is life. In today's episode, I'm going to be talking about the food and flesh of the gods, also known as cacao and mushrooms. So, I was at a music festival and I had removed myself somewhat from the main hub. So there were multiple stages, there was kind of a commerce area, you could go do yoga, and I had walked away from the main hub of action of everything that was going on to take a moment of introspection, self-reflection, to recenter myself. And so I was sitting down by this beautiful lake, the sun was setting, and in the sunset light, up walks this stranger. And the stranger proffers this perfect little square, pretty package to me. It's covered in sacred geometry in this beautiful purple color, and the contents inside are wrapped in gold. So what's inside this pretty little package, you wonder? Well, he told me inside were magic mushrooms in chocolate. And there was a dosing directions inside the package that said if you wanted to do just a microdose and just have a little bit more shine to the world, you would eat this much chocolate. And if you wanted to go on a full shamanic journey, you would eat this much. Cacao and mushrooms have been combined across history, across cultures, across civilizations. And it's something that's both very common and treated with much sacredness. It's something that's both an ancient practice and a very modern current one. And there's a good reason for those two things being combined. The scientific name for cacao is Theobroma, which means food of the gods. And the Aztec name for mushrooms, Teonanacatl, means flesh of the gods. So with cacao and mushrooms, we have both the food of the gods and the flesh of the gods. And that's a potent combination that we've been enjoying for a large part of human history. Now, cacao was domesticated in South America about 5,000 years ago and has been used by the Mayans in ceremonies ever since. And the Mayans viewed cacao as a gift from the gods, and they grew these sacred groves of cacao trees. And researchers have actually found these ancient sites along sinkholes in the Yucatan Peninsula, which provided the perfect environment for growing cacao. And cacao was so important that it was regarded as both currency and part of religious ritual by Mesoamerican civilizations. And cacao continues to be important in the here and now. Raise your hand if you love chocolate. Now, chocolate tastes amazing. Cacao is wonderful. And it also has all of these health benefits. And one of the health benefits of consuming cacao is that it's packed with flavonoids. And flavonoids help lower blood pressure. They improve blood flow to the brain and heart, and they aid in preventing blood clots. Cacao is also packed with potassium, and potassium has been shown to decrease the risk of heart disease by reducing inflammation in the body and stress in the cells. That reduced inflammation may lower your risk of certain cancers, diabetes, arthritis, depression, Alzheimer's. Food of the gods, indeed. And cacao is said to be the highest plant-based source of magnesium. Now, magnesium is a mineral known to reduce stress and anxiety, and it's also referred to as the sleep mineral. And here's the thing. About 80% of Americans are supposedly chronically deficient in magnesium. And according to the CDC, 1 in 3 adults doesn't get an adequate amount of sleep. Coincidence? So having a nice warm cup of cacao before bed may actually aid in your sleep. Apparently, it's common for rainforest mothers to give their children a cup of cacao before they go to bed at night as a way to soothe them and help them fall asleep. The other thing about magnesium is that it deactivates adrenaline. And so it helps neutralize toxins, it quiets the nerves. And cacao is also rich in tryptophan, which is an amino acid which turns into the neurotransmitter serotonin, which then converts into the hormone melatonin. So we have serotonin, which is the happy chemical, And we know cacao can boost the body's production of it, elevating our mood, helping us cope with stress. And melatonin is what we need in order to get a good night's sleep. So that's a powerful two-punch right there. Cacao also contains high amounts of phenylethylamine, PEA, a neurotransmitter we produce when we fall in love. And coincidentally, maybe not so coincidentally, it's the basic building block for a lot of psychedelics. And here's one more for you. Cacao contains anandamide, I don't know if I'm saying that right, which is one of the body's natural forms of cannabinoid. It's similar to THC, which means it induces feelings of relaxation and happiness. And cacao also inhibits the breakdown of anandamide in the body, increasing its uptake and contributing to its reputation of creating sensations of bliss. Because in Sanskrit, the word ananda means bliss. So no wonder when we have a cup of hot chocolate or consume some chocolate in some way, we feel warm, we feel comforted, we feel nourished, we feel calm. And speaking of which, as I was creating this podcast, I'm doing all this research on cacao and the health benefits and looking up these Aztec legends, which is amazing. And I was having a really hard time not going and getting myself a cup of chocolate. I was trying to stay focused, right? Like I was like, oh no, I'm working right now. And I tried to override the impulse like 3 times. And I think it was like on an old Oprah episode that my mom was watching sometime in the 80s where somebody on Oprah said like, hey, if you get a craving and you've overridden it 3 times and it's not going away, like just go eat the chocolate cake. So I decided to get up and make the cup of chocolate milk. And, drinking chocolate can release dopamine, which makes you feel good. It can also relieve stress. And I got to tell you, it worked. I felt much happier after I got my cup of chocolate milk and felt way less stressed. I wasn't that stressed to begin with, but it still felt really good to go get it. Okay, so in addition to making you happier and releasing dopamine and relieving stress, cacao also contains psychoactive properties, which makes it incredibly synergistic with magic mushrooms. And this is something that the Aztec tribes of Central America knew very well. And as I talked about in that legend in the beginning, cacao was seen as a divine gift from the feathered serpent god Quetzalcoatl, who was the god of wind, god of the dawn, god of knowledge. And that meant that cacao had all of this religious significance. And the Aztecs consumed magic mushrooms with cacao. Sometimes what would happen is they would consume the magic mushrooms. That would be the beginning part of the ceremony. And then throughout the entire duration of the ceremony, they would then sip chocolate to enhance the effects of magic mushrooms. And sometimes they would consume them all together. So, dancer's choice. Take your pick. Now, combining cacao and mushrooms is this particularly magical, potent experience because magic mushrooms are said to open up your mind and cacao is said to open up your heart. And so by consuming this food of the gods and flesh of the gods together, you're creating this strong connection between your mind and your heart. And what future world is possible when we're indulging in these substances, being ritualistic with these substances that give us physical benefits, emotional benefits, mental benefits. We create a future where there's less anxiety, less depression. These substances are also shown to be really helpful with addiction. That's a really beautiful world that becomes possible. And yet, psychedelics, psilocybin included, are still considered a Schedule 1 drug, which means they're classified as, quote, having no currently accepted medical use and a high potential for abuse. Now, other people before me, and I'm sure people after me, have made the argument that it's really hard to know whether or not something has therapeutic use if people are unwilling to study it. Luckily, there are organizations like MAPS who, in their own words, specialize in research and education that develops medical, legal, and cultural shifts benefiting the careful use of psychedelics and marijuana for mental and spiritual healing. So thank you to MAPS for being willing to do this pioneering work of actually being able to educate us rather than coming from this puritanical, restrictive idea of, these substances shouldn't be touched in any way, because we know they have tremendous benefit for good. But beyond psychedelics, there are benefits to combining cacao not just with magic mushrooms, psychedelic mushrooms, but also medicinal ones. And medicinal mushrooms are really great at detoxifying the body, at transforming the body. Some of their benefits include providing immune support. They're full of antioxidants. They support a healthy inflammation response. They help to balance blood sugar. They support brain and health cognition. They support the nervous system, and they increase energy and stamina. So for instance, reishi's been called the mushroom of immortality. Maitake gets its name. In Japanese, it means the dancing mushroom because the legend goes that when people consumed maitake for the first time, it filled them with such happiness because of all the healing benefits that it conferred. Lion's mane has been used for monks to increase their ability to concentrate during meditation. So these are some pretty magic mushrooms, even when they're not in the psychedelic realm. When they're in the medicinal realm solely, they're still pretty magical. And so cacao is a wonderful vehicle for getting the benefits of all of these mushrooms. It's a great precursor, and it really aids them in all of their wonderful benefits. Something I like to think about is what our ancestors must be thinking and feeling and experiencing watching us consume these incredibly decadent, indulgent, ritualistic, and oh so important substances with the level of ease that we have. And again, I recognize that psychedelics are definitely a substance that we still have a hard time interacting with in a healthy, positive, easy way. But cacao, medicinal mushrooms like reishi, this idea that we can consume them with such ease is such a gift, is such a blessing. And then the luxury, the decadence of being able to doctor them up with all of these other substances that have incredible health benefits and taste so good. Like the fact that we get to add cinnamon to our drinks, or we get to add vanilla to our drinks. I mean, how luxurious. Or that very magical of substances, honey. So it's really exciting that we get to experience so much magic from this food of the earth, from these plant substances from the earth. Like what a gift that is. So I'm curious, what's your favorite way to consume cacao? Is it a part of your daily life? Do you have any ritual around it? What role does cacao play in your life? And what about mushrooms? What role do mushrooms play in your life? I daily consume mushrooms. I do it from everything for cognitive focus and mood improvement to allergies. Like they help me with all kinds of things. And clearly I like chocolate. I had to stop this podcast in the middle of it to go make myself a cup and then come back so I could finish it later. Because yeah, it's that good. It's totally worth it. I highly suggest going to do that. But what is it like for you to tap into the magic of cacao and the magic of mushrooms and maybe combine those things in a really intentional, ritualistic way? Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, please leave a review over on Apple Podcast or anywhere else where you listen. Also, for those of you that don't know who are just listening, there's a YouTube channel. Mudwater has a YouTube channel where if you actually want to see me making all my faces and doing what I do, you can go over to YouTube and check that out. And it's really helpful if you leave a comment there because then we know what you like, what you don't like, what you want more of, what you want less of. And go ahead and check out trendswithbenefits.com for all of our written content. You can check out articles from me and my fellow co-host Kyle, as well as a bunch of other really talented, creative, lovely human beings. You can also sign up for our weekly newsletter there. And I'm continuing to offer, take me up on it, y'all, like get some free coaching. If you are having any questions, struggles, complications, sticky, stagnant points in your relationship and you could use a little bit of support, take collective action. Call me in. Like I can be the lifeline. You can send a voice memo into podcast@mudwtr.com letting me know what you would like support with. And I'd be happy to answer some questions for you on this podcast. Here's wishing you an open heart and an open mind.